In. Where'd they go? They were in there a moment ago. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last session of 4 Days, 4 Ways Business Career Week. This is session 4. For those of you wondering which one you are watching right now, you are watching the handshake. It's more than the myth of handshake. You know, like it's the end of the day. So now I can't even remember what session we're in. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
All right, so as you know, we're recording this. We're going to use it for later on for other sessions, but I want to first introduce you to my co-host, who I am so excited to be sharing this with. So Jenna, right now you're the one on, so I want to introduce you to Mark Turek. So Mark is from the Hartford, which, you know, congratulations, Mark. You just got rated top 10 overall, and #1 in insurance, best place employers for new grads 2020.
And a new one that just came out is we were recognized in the Elite 50 for summer intern programs. So
Nice.
That was a new one that we got last week. So the hits keep coming.
Yep. And the best part of that is that you've been recruiting at UConn for a very long time, but you're also a UConn alum.
Yep.
So welcome back. And for the students that are joining us, I can see Alexa, you are back. Connor, you are back. Both of you guys are rock stars. You have been on all day long. I don't know how you're doing it. We're so excited to have you back. And Jenna and I have been having great conversations like over the last couple days. So this is where all the sweet stuff happens. So again, Mark, he's the campus manager for UConn, guys. And one of the reasons why I asked him to join me on this handshake presentation is because he and I were in a meeting a couple months ago talking about resources and talking about career college recruiting. And Mark was talking about the really interesting ways that the Hartford uses Handshake as a tool to like find students and find the talent out there. So we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to go through how you use Handshake from a student point of view, because there's so many neat tricks that you guys can be using. And then Mark is going to jump in at any point in time, and we're going to go over like how he uses it also from the employer point of view. So I'm going to flip my screen first. So let me show you. There we go. Oh, all right, so this is a document that I will email to all of you later. So it's the overview, but I'm not going to do just the whole presentation that way. We're going to just jump right into Handshake itself so you can see it. All right. So can everybody see what can we help you find today?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. All right. So Mark, for your point of view, and for the students that may not be using this very much, this is what you see when you first go into the program. Okay. So when you log on as the student, it says to you, what can we help you find today? And you'll notice like right here in the middle of the screen are all these tabs that you can use. But here's the really cool part that I want you to be thinking about.
Hang on, Kathy, I think you're sharing just Microsoft Word right now.
Oh, you can't. All right, so let's see. Let me stop sharing and share again. All right, can you see new jobs recommended for you?
There it is. Yep.
Yay. All right. So this is what you all would see when you go into your Handshake accounts. The thing that's very cool, and the part that you can use Handshake as a resource for you, like you're going to use this by the end of today's session as a tool that works for you, not just a program that you go into and look for jobs and look up information and details. But if you look at this new jobs recommended for you right in the middle of the screen, how does the program get that information? Like, why is it recommending certain jobs for you? Some of your information is pre-populated, right? So your net ID is going to pull in your major, your year of graduation. But when you fill out the resources that go behind this is going to change the entire program for you. So I'm going to show you how to get to that. So if you can see that I'm hovering like over in the corner where my little tiny picture is, you get a drop down. All right, so can you see the drop down where it says career interests? Yep. Yes. Yep. Okay. So if you click on career interests, Alexa, what is your major? You were on your, so go ahead. What's your major?
I'm a finance major.
You're a finance major. Okay.
Finance.
Finance. So when you go in here, this career interests is something, it's a document that you're going to create and you can save it. You can save it as a PDF and you can change it as often as you want. But this is where you make the program actually work for you. So again, this is my fake ID, right? So this is not a real student. This is me. I put in here this information. What kind of job are you looking for? So you could do internship and part-time. You can do an campus job as well, because this will pull other ones in. But for the purposes of finding, you know, the employers, you would put in, I want an internship, what you're considering after graduation, what type of graduate programs that you might be interested in. But here's the really cool part. What job roles are you interested in? I have put like 60 in here, right? So what I want you guys to do is when you go in here, you just start typing any job that you're looking for. Can you unmute for a second and tell me what type of job you might be looking for?
Geez, I don't know. Like right now,
Yeah.
Maybe one on campus. I'm not sure. Like giving tours or something as a student. I'm not sure.
Okay. What's your major?
Finance.
Okay. So you looking for an internship or a full-time job?
Maybe an internship.
Okay. So then let's do internship. Let's just put in financial internship. More.
Change it to finance, Kathy.
Yep. So you could just put in like financial investigator. Anything that you start to type in there for a job, it's going to automatically pull up what you think or give you options. When you fill all of these in, and you can put as many in here as you want, that first page that says jobs recommended for you completely changes. Now it's pulling from this program and pulling from the data that you actually put into it. Now I'm open to different areas. So I put in for where am I living? New York, Boston, Denver, San Diego, Hartford. You put it in there and it's going to just pull different jobs for you. And then you just keep going down. So this takes a little bit of time, but well worth all of it. You put in every type of job you think you might be interested in, right? So I put in advertising and international affairs, nonprofit work. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense, if the jobs are very, very different, because right now we want you to have a broad access to all the type of jobs that you can be looking at. So you fill this whole thing out. You say when you expect to graduate, save my career interests. It'll always let you go back and see what you did, but now when you go to your home page, the new jobs recommended for you, it's going to show the same ones that were there before because I didn't edit mine, but it's going to show you all new jobs there. And every time you follow an employer, so if you're following the Hartford, every time the Hartford posts a new position, it's going to show up on this page and it's going to start to tell you about the ones that are in line with what you're looking for. So this is where you start making a resource do the work for you, right? And then, so what if you, like Connor, you said you didn't know what you wanted to do. So if you click on this career path right in the center here, you could do a little research in here. And you could say, if you were thinking of doing something like personal financial advisors, if you click on that, it's going to tell you salaries, the type of jobs. It's going to link you to jobs that are currently in the system. Ignore this salary information here because it's broad. It doesn't necessarily tell you what students at UConn are earning.
It also doesn't take into account geographic adjustments, right, and things like that, which can be significantly different if we're talking about, I don't know, New York City versus New Haven, for example. There are going to be vast differences. One thing I wanted to add, Kathy, on the stuff that you were showing before with the details under the profile,
Uh-huh.
As a recruiter's perspective of this, the more information that you guys can load in there, the better. And one thing that we do in mining the database is we have to find different ways of finding you guys. And it isn't as black and white as saying, I'm looking for a finance major with X GPA. There's location, there's you know, other interests that might open up the door to other opportunities that you might not think of as a finance student. Like one area at the Hartford that I think of is enterprise risk management, which is an area that a lot of finance and econ students go into. It'll pop you out to people like me when we're mining it. And we have ways, and I'll show you guys at some point in the call when it makes sense to share my screen. I can show you what we see on our side that we pick. So this year I've been doing a lot of searches in markets that we don't have a huge presence like we do in Connecticut. Like a perfect example, I have a sales opening in Kansas City. I've never recruited in Kansas City in my 15 years as a recruiter. So what the heck do I do now? I got to rely on the system. And I'm finding all of my candidates for that role through doing a desired location search. So I'm not doing major, I'm not doing GPA, I'm not doing interest area. I'm starting with a open to this location search and then backing into everything from there. So if you guys have geographic flexibility, it's even more important that you put them in there as well, because we can run radius searches around those areas and then add a filter for students who may be further from that are interested in potentially considering that area as a place of work.
That's huge, because initially you guys may remember that when we first started using some of these programs, we didn't want you to narrow it down too much, right? So when you were looking for a job, we advised don't just put in the location of Hartford, Connecticut. So in the search side, if you want to search by geographic, you can. But to Mark's point, the more you let the employer know that you're open to those locations, that adds value as opposed to narrowing the search for you. Mark, that actually makes a huge difference, because I think, you know, the program will give you the closest radius to what you're searching for. But I think sometimes students don't even realize that there are roles in so many other parts of the country, like especially for the Hartford, your name, right?
Yep. Clubs and organizations are really important in there too. We can actually mine those through some of the filtration features that Handshake gives employers. So if you guys are in a well-known club or society or a diversity organization or something like that, we can search that way too. So if we have a manager who is, you know, part of the finance society when they were in college and they want us to try to find students in the finance society at UConn, we can actually search that, get that granular with our searches to find you guys.
Mm-hmm. And there isn't a category in here where, like, we used to call them resume books, but for the students, there isn't necessarily a place other than this profile here where you could add those organizations and extracurriculars. So using it on the profile, your main profile, that's gonna help, like Mark was saying, help employers to identify you. So you're not just doing it right. You're not doing a word search on resumes, right, Mark? You're really looking more at the profile.
I can't even tell you, and I mentioned this on that call that we were talking about this application. I cannot remember the last time I've seen a physical resume in Handshake. And frankly, it doesn't really bother me that much, because it allows me to be a little less biased in who I'm sending things out to. And I'll cast a wider net that way. So there are times certainly when I do wish I had that access, and I don't know if I'm just looking in the wrong places, but they're not where they used to be. I would recommend attaching it. I would also recommend filling out the little profile section that pops up on the right side of the screen that we can see, where it gives us a little bit of a snapshot of you as a person and what your interest areas are and how you're involved and stuff like that.
Actually, I can switch over. Again, this is my fake one, so there's not a lot in here, but I just switched over to what the employer can see. So Mark would be able to see all these roles that I said I was interested in, the industries, skills that I put in here. So the more you put into this program, just like LinkedIn, the more you put into it, the more it's going to work for you. All right. So
are you guys on Handshake? Any of you three, Jenna, Alexa, or Connor, are you guys on Handshake yet?
Yeah, I'm on Handshake.
Let me close out of this just for 1 second.
All right.
You must be on campus, Connor, because you're wearing a mask.
Yeah, I'm actually in the business building. I've been hopping around all day.
Oh man, we were all talking about how much we miss being in the business building. All right, so you're all using Handshake. Jenna, when's the last time you used it?
Probably a few days ago, honestly.
Okay, and what were you searching for in there?
I was probably looking for jobs or reviewing whatever saved jobs I had.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, and that's an important thing to think about too, is that when you go into your profile, it will remember companies you've looked at, jobs that you've applied to, because it's hard to remember sometimes where you've applied to jobs. And we usually tell students have that Excel spreadsheet that says I applied on LinkedIn, I applied on Handshake, I applied on the company's website. Handshake does do some of that work for you. You can go in to see, what did I do last semester? What did I do this semester? It'll help keep some of that control for you. If you're using it, know that Google Chrome is really the only way to go. If you can, use Google Chrome, because Safari, some of the other programs don't work as well. And Handshake kind of gets a little wonky when you're using a different browser. So try to use Google Chrome. And I know everybody here's been in it, but for those that are listening to this program later, it's your Net ID. That's your automatic access to the program. So you want to start building your profile in there. Mark, do you want to talk for a moment before I go into like the employer side, or do you want me to show them Hartford Financial Services profile? And
I was just looking at Jenna's Handshake profile. I wanted to just take a look at one of them. You have all the stuff. The only thing I would say in that one is add some more skills to it. You know, don't be afraid to overload some of these things in here. But think of this as kind of like, at least this is how I look at Handshake, as kind of like a student-driven LinkedIn, right? Where we know you guys are using that too, and it's like, oh gosh, another system that we have to worry about here and figuring out how to best maximize it. But the thing is, for us, is LinkedIn is a beast. You know, there's millions of people on there. It's everything under the sun. So if I share a job on there, I'm going to get people with like 5, 10 years of experience reaching out to me about it. So I tend to lean a little bit more exclusively towards Handshake when I'm doing more refined searching. So, you know, again, I can't stress enough. It's like you look at LinkedIn as like your social media resume almost. This is kind of the same thing. So like you can almost have them mirror each other in context and you know, what you're showing to us that you bring to the table. More information, the better. And I'll show you what we mine in this here at some point here today, so you can kind of see the things that we can use as filters, and then take that and flip it to your side of how you guys set these things up and make sure you're hitting on some of those points.
Right. I mean, before it was just a program that, you know, you can always, and we talked about this earlier today in some of our other sessions, is you can always look for events in there. You can look for, you know, the job that's open currently. But the wealth of information that's on the employer page too is really important in it. And I'm going to flip over one more time, just because I wanted everybody to be able to see each other for a minute there. But I want to show you in here what it looks like when we look up an employer in here. So if I go to jobs, I need to move this out of the way. And again, I'll give you the full sheet that tells you how to do this, but for purposes of the 1 hour that we have, I want you to be able to just kind of see the highlights. All right, so here's the Hartford. Ta-da! Mark, have you ever seen it from like the student side for your Hartford?
I think our view of it is the same as what you guys can see.
Okay. All right. So Alexa, if you were thinking about applying to a job at the Hartford, right? Sometimes people would say, go on that old Glassdoor program, which is people who are on two spectrums. It's somebody that's either really cranky about the job that they had, or they're bragging about it. And there's not a lot of useful information in between those two areas. But if you go on Handshake right here, these reviews, this is student facing. So the only reviews that are in here are about the Hartford's jobs that were created by college students across the United States. This is where you can get a great deal of information. And Mark, I probably should have looked at this first.
Well, they're all positive.
So this, This one, oh yeah. Financial analyst. So Connor, this one could be for you. Financial analyst intern. It's a senior. He did the internship. This was the experience that he had. So you could read this and find out, does this sound like a role that I'm even interested in? So you can go through and you can read all of the different types of roles. So bond underwriting, actuarial. And you see, when you're looking at this, again, here's a student from St. John's University, probably has the exact same picture in Handshake that he does in his LinkedIn. So you're getting that branding, right? You're seeing it across both areas. So you can read the reviews, but then you can also get tips on interviews. Those same interviews, those same positions, the students across the United States have actually written in here and said, what was the interview process like? And what's one question that you were asked? So go here first. Make sure that you're always looking at what other students across the nation are saying about the company and get some insight directly from them. So let's see if there's one. Oh, this one could be in your area, right, Mark? ECLDP.
Yep,
Yeah.
I hired her.
Ah, see? All right, let's see what she said.
I hired the first one you had up on the screen too.
This is why it's so much fun to have an employer on the calls, guys, because like when we talk about this stuff, it feels like, okay, they're using the system. But then when you got Mark right here talking about the fact, yeah, that's somebody that I hired. This is all really current information. All right, so you're going to get an idea of the review of the company, interviews. Right here, it's going to tell you what jobs are posted. And here over in the corner, I don't think the pictures are in the way, but can you see this? Let's see. The follow button. Yep. So you follow it. And following it opens up that door, partly to what Mark was saying, but also to what I was saying. You're going to start getting emails from Handshake itself saying, hey, a job was just posted at the Hartford. There's an event happening at the Hartford. So this is where use the system, make it work for you. And this is
you can also see, Kathy, scroll down a little bit on this.
Hi.
One thing that I'll point out to you guys that you could also see in this. Oh no, go back to the
yeah, I'm going back. Okay.
If you scroll down a little bit, keep
Oh,
going. Oh, wait, actually go to the overview page.
Yep.
And then scroll down. Go down a little bit on the page, a little bit more. There you go. You got your public staff list. Now I could scold my other teammates here for not putting themselves on this. But I'm kind of like, I've sort of kind of become the like unvolunteered handshake guru of my team. So when you're looking at companies and you're thinking about networking, right? Like you guys hear about that a ton. Hunt us down on LinkedIn, get connected on LinkedIn, follow the company, get connected with the person on LinkedIn, and you can always send them a message saying, hey, I checked out your company on Handshake, came over here to get connected with you and ask about any potential opportunities coming up. You'll get line of sight of who you might interview with usually on this, because it's always there's at least going to be one recruiter on there. We won't talk about my profile or lack thereof, because I don't really have much of one in here. I haven't played around with that piece to it yet. Just because I put all my efforts into my LinkedIn profile, and frankly, as recruiters, that's where we get the most of our activity. So I probably should dust this thing off and take a look at it, because I haven't clicked into that in ages and ages. But it's another way for you guys to kind of set yourselves out from the crowd a little bit, to do some outreach. And so if let's say you're navigating through the summer and thinking about the upcoming fall with all of the career fairs and everything that happens over those months, follow the companies that you're super, super interested in, track their people down on LinkedIn, then figure out when they're going to be on campus. And I guarantee you the names that you see on here will be people that will be present at those events, that you'll have the ice is already broken, so to say, if you get connected with them out there. So just another way to be a little bit creative with your networking and sleuthing names off of here and pulling them over into a different platform to maintain connection with them.
And if you remember earlier, I know that some of you that were on the session with Judy, and she was talking about ways to engage and that follow-up. If you have an interview and you don't know how to follow up, you don't have any contact information, you can go in here as well. to see if there's somebody that's got contact. Because you'll see like right here, if nothing else, there's an email. You can send an email to University Relations if you don't have any other contact at all and you want to follow up.
You've got something there that we don't have. Students
Ooh.
who've worked here. I just noticed that. Scroll down a little bit more
Okay.
on that. So that could be another option for you guys, right? Like it's giving you line of sight of every single student who has worked at the Hartford. And this is inclusive of all colleges, but who knows? Maybe there's someone you went to high school with or from your town in here, or someone from your classes on campus that you can reach out to and say, hey, tell me a little bit about your experience there. What can I expect through the interview process? This is pretty cool. I actually never knew that this was in here. It's even more powerful than having like my name and stuff. You could find out a wealth of information from these students.
Right, because it's a warm connection. I mean, this student is the animal sciences major. I gotta know what they did at the Hartford.
I'm trying to remember.
Desktop
Desktop support. So he could have been a high school intern.
Oh, okay. Yep, that could
I'm
be.
pretty sure he was, because we have a relationship with a couple magnet schools in Greater Hartford and those are really the only desktop support folks. So
Okay.
I know a couple of those kids ended up at UConn, so that's probably one of them. But that's cool though, because it gives you line of sight to what they interned in. So,
right.
You know, when you think about like if you're a finance student, like you're not going to email a computer science UConn student to ask them how their internship as an application engineer went over the summer, because it's not going to resonate with you. But you can get creative with it. And then if there's things that you're curious about, like what the heck does an underwriter do, or what's actuarial science all about, you have that here too. So, just another way to get in front of people.
The message button, it goes through Handshake. So this isn't giving out personal emails, guys. So like if you see that like your name is listed in there that you worked there, don't worry that Handshake is just suddenly giving out all your private information. So the system allows you to talk to students within Handshake. So there's definitely some protection there. All right, so let's go back to the Hartford one more up to the top. All right, so no, it was Sean. So Sean asked a question earlier about like what type of questions do you ask in an interview? And we tell you start doing your research. You know, make sure that you're reading even just the basics of what the company is putting in here into their Handshake, so that you can start doing some research that way. Right, and then this tells you right here. Here's the jobs. It brings you into them. Where did it go?
Oh, we don't have much posted. I actually have to take down that tech posting too. That's
I mean, we talked about that there's different recruiting timelines, right? So the Hartford is doing really very well on the hiring.
Yeah, so and I would say, speaking for some of our competitors that you know, I know from my interactions on the campus advisory board and stuff like that, the best time for you guys to be hunting at any large company is the fall. So, you know, we're crashing down onto campus when we can be there live. And jobs get posted early September. We're out on campus kind of a week or two after that for the first time for the year. This year we were 91.4% full at Thanksgiving. So,
and you do a lot of your hiring through the internship program, right, Mark?
In our early career leadership development program, we do. Like, it's very difficult to get into that program if you didn't intern in it. Our biggest program with that is the Ops Tech and Data program, and we filled 17 of the 20 openings with interns from the prior summer. So it's a 20 associate program that we only had 3 openings for. And some of our programs get completely filled with interns from the prior summer, and these are smaller ones. Like if it's 3 or 4 hires, they can do that stuff. So
right. And I mean, the nice thing about talking to Mark and other companies, I mean, even in the spring when you're talking to them, you know, companies are starting to recruit for, you know, internships a year in advance. You know, it's not as bad as the investment banking where they, you know, you apply for your freshman, sophomore, and junior internship basically in the same year because they keep moving back the deadlines, but you'll be able to see within here and some of the events that the employers are doing at the different time of year when they're opening up jobs as well. So I'll tell you right now, for like the students that are on here, normally when we're on campus, right? So Mark would come and he would do sessions with student associations and groups. Because we're in virtual, some of the employers decided to go right straight to Handshake, and they can post an information session to every college across the United States in here at once, right? So there might have been 150 events going on last year at this time. Well, because it was March, normally during this time frame, there might have been like 150 events in Handshake. There's probably 500 in there now, right? Because employers are going right to the session, right to the program and doing some internships there. So try not to get too overwhelmed looking at events. You can think about if there's a specific company, you could search for the company right here to see if they're hosting an event. But do try to pay attention to the ones that are specific to your major and sharing some of the events that are coming up. So you can search for events and within this section as well. I just want to be mindful of your time. Mark, do you want to switch over to you? Want me to stop sharing and we can switch over to some of what you were doing?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
All right.
While he's getting that set up, Jenna or Alexa or Sean, Connor, do you guys ask any questions?
I have a question. I was actually looking at Handshake like half an hour ago, and I noticed that a lot of the internships are remote. And I was just wondering, like, how is that? Oh, can you hear me?
You sound like a robot.
Is that better or no?
No.
Maybe stop your video, Alexa, and that way you can just go ahead and speak.
Is it better like this, or should I just type it?
Not much better. How about in the chat?
Okay.
Yep, yeah, if you want to write it in the chat, we'll read it out for you. And it happens to all of us, Alexa.
Yes, more than I'd like to admit.
Yep. I got blasted out of a Microsoft Teams meeting this morning because it was like a fire alarm going off in my ear.
Oh no.
Nobody knows why. Like, and they're like, "Oh, that happened to me before." I'm like, that might be something we want to look into. Just saying. So I think she was asking about remote internships. Yes, you were. I thought I heard that in there.
Yeah.
So we think it's working out great. We did it last year. So I managed a program, and one of the things that I went into last season with is we had a lot of managers who kind of were like, well, if it can't be in person, we're not doing it. And that's not okay to me, because we're fulfilling an obligation, right? When you've accepted an offer, you're expecting us to deliver on that offer that we extended to you. So with a little bit of massaging and fine tuning, we were able to get everyone to come around to running that last year. And surprisingly, and I say this surprisingly because I am a skeptic, or I'm always thinking things are not going to go as well as they are going to. I'm very hard on myself on managing these things, and we came up at the end of that with the highest net promoter score that our summer intern program has ever received. So something went right. We like to think, and I think part of what's playing into that is just tied to the fact that we were a company that decided to not cancel it. I heard a lot of horror stories last year. I had a lot of students reaching out to me, freaking out because all of their roommates just lost their offers. So it's a learning experience, right? And I think now that we're embarking on our second one this summer, so we officially announced that a couple weeks ago. Our enterprise work from home mandate is right now through mid-August. So that goes past our summer intern program. So we do a lot of work in providing learning and development opportunities. This year, we're going to make an attempt at trying to do some virtual team building, because we got a lot of feedback on that last year. It's a very difficult thing to pull off in a virtual setting. We have a speaker series. We've got panel discussions. We've got a virtual volunteer event with the Boys and Girls Club of America. So it's basically lifting and loading your in-person experience into a virtual platform, and trying to sacrifice as little as humanly possible in doing that. And I think last year we felt a little bit more sacrificed because it's the first time and we had to shorten the summer by a couple weeks just to get ourselves extra plan for it. But I'd say it's working out great. I think in some cases we may see more opportunities for virtual or remote internships to happen in the future as a result of it. But at the end of the day, our summer intern program will go back to being in person when this is all said and done, because nothing can replace that in-person experience. So it's good stuff. It's a little scary going through it, but you know, that's the fun of working in this type of work. It's like trial and error almost. So this is the employer view. Well, actually, I should, before I dive into this, does anyone else have other questions for me that I can answer?
Oh, yeah, hi. I just have one question.
Sure.
The mandate was through August. I was wondering if that applies for, if that's only in Connecticut or if that's other locations, because I saw there was a job at the Hartford that looked interesting, but it was in Pennsylvania. So I was wondering if you know anything about other states.
Yep, it's all the same. It's end to end. So we have roles that we actually provide housing for. So what I feel when doing something like this, if we were going to be in person, there's a huge collection of individuals who would relocate to Connecticut for the summer and we pay for them to live here. If suddenly things change and we can go back to the office, we don't want to turn around and say, all right, everybody come in now, because then it's basically giving the shaft to all of the people that, you know, we're planning on moving here for the summer and now they're not going to get the same experience as everybody. So we view it as kind of a like inclusive approach of saying like, there shouldn't be differing experiences throughout this from the things that we can control, right? Like there's differences in the role and in the exposure that you get in that, but we can control, is it happening in person? Is it happening remote? And I just think making sure everybody has the same exact experience minimizes any issues that might arise out of someone, you know, getting taken out to lunch by their group and getting to do all these other things and then bragging about it to everybody. And you're like, what the heck, man? I've been sitting in my house the whole summer. As Jim Lowe would say, in my childhood bed, in my childhood bedroom, you know, doing my work for the summer. So we'll keep it end to end remote. We hope that this is the last year that we have to do this, but it's going to be the same. Was that a Hartford Funds posting that you were replying to? Do you remember?
I think it was just a full-time position. It was like a marketing job.
Yep, that's Hartford Funds. So that's a like, they're part of our company, but what they do is manage like mutual funds and asset management and stuff like that. So it's almost like a company within the company, even though it's called Hartford Funds. They like their intern program almost runs independent to ours. They don't partner with us. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. I won't get into the weeds on explaining that. It's still the same company. It's just a little bit of a different focus. They don't do any insurance out of that office at all. It's all asset management. But send me a message. I could look into it for you. We'll see if we can get your resume in front of anybody for that.
Mark,
So,
is it okay if I pop your email in here?
yeah, go for it.
What is it?
Here, I'll put it in. I'll do it. Hang on.
Okay. I just realized that every time I send you an email, I do it in Outlook and it pops up automatically.
Yep. But type like one letter and it comes up, right?
Yeah.
So this is the employer view of Handshake. Let me move some of these things around because I'm sure you guys could see all of this. Can you see this box that I'm moving around right now? Or am I only able to see that?
I can't see the
cool.
box,
All right.
but we can see post a job, request an interview, create an event.
Here I am thinking this little video box has been in the way of you guys the whole time. So I'll show you a couple things in here.
Okay.
You mentioned events before, so info sessions and things like that. We've actually done stuff related to this before. We have one coming up with some of the historically Black colleges and universities here, where you can kind of see, we throw the event together. They get the pictures of the individuals who are on here. It gives you a little bit of context about the event, how many we invited, how many have registered. We got a little bit of work to do on this one, apparently. And then, you know, we see things like what schools are approving them to be posted out there. You can get real crazy with it. So we did this diverse voices in insurance. You guys see a common theme here of some recent events that we've had. This one went out to 8,745 students.
Wow.
You can see what superb response you get on these things when you send them out. But I remember talking to Lisa McGuire on this one, and I know you guys at UConn had it was definitely in the
Yeah.
hundreds of virtual events that were available. So I think what
Right.
happened with a lot of this is you guys are getting tired of these options, right? Like, what am I supposed to pick? What am I supposed to go to? What's a good use of my time when I have 700 different events I can pick from? I think oftentimes with that, it's like, what employers do you want to get in front of? Start with that, whittle it down to that, and then go from there. Um, so the same view that you guys saw before of our company site on here is the same for us. We just don't have that section of the students who work here, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have that? I would love to have that. Like,
Right.
what students have worked at your company?
Yeah.
But one interesting thing that we do in here is under these segments and campaigns right here. And so I've been using this a ton, and this is kind of the conversation that led to Kathy inviting me to this call today, which was what I was talking about when we met recently. So we have some roles that sometimes have challenges to the skill set that we want to look to fill it. It could be location, it could be, in the technical roles, some programming languages that are really tough to find, like Guidewire, for example. And what we could do in here is build out student segments that allow us to create almost like a mine of the database, where you guys can see here, the count is the amount of students that we're pulling out through these different filters, and then
Holy
the
moly.
number of schools that they're targeting. So there's 7 million students in this application. So we have to be able to make a method to the madness, right? Or control the chaos, so to say. So if I'm trying to hire a sales rep in Maryland, how the heck am I going to find them in here? Searching in the student section over here doesn't do anything for me because there's 7 million of them. You have to be able to try to whittle that list down to something that's manageable. So we can actually get in here, and this is where I was talking about before with your profiles, having as much information as you can physically put on there is going to help you when recruiters are mining this database. This one I got a little specialized where I actually added some schools. Let me back up. I can actually show you one where maybe I didn't do that. This one.
Mark, there's really 7 million students in Handshake.
Yep.
That is incredible. All right, so talk about trying to get noticed, guys. This is the
Yeah,
insight you
pretty
need.
crazy. So this was a campaign that I put together with one of the account managers from Handshake before we got the tool, which this worked too well. And I literally received emails for 7 months after we sent it. I'm not kidding. Like I've never been bombarded like I was from this in my life. And I'm petrified when I saw this 10,000 number and I was like, well, there's no looking back now. Just click send. But this is a really general one where we kept it super high level. So you can see we just did all these technical degrees, new grads, 2021 graduates, bachelor's degree, has work authorization, minimum GPA. But you can see all these different filtration tools that we could put in here, like that location one that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
That would go right here. So if you said I'm interested in Baltimore, Maryland, and I put Baltimore, Maryland in here in like a 50 or 75-mile radius, you're going to pop up in that search and you're going to be part of this segment that we send a campaign off of. We can get down into organizations. So if you're in diverse focused organizations or diverse institutions, which UConn would not fit that bill, but if you're involved in some clubs and orgs on campus that are tied to this stuff, that could pop you out of there. So that's where it becomes important to include your extracurriculars on here. We can even search by coursework. I have never gone that far as to do that. I don't think I would ever really necessarily need to, but it's just another thing for you guys to see as you're building out the profile, all the different options that we have to find you. Let's see what else in here. Checking this off is big. I often find that when I click full-time in this, for some reason, like watch, we'll do it here. Look at it chopped in half. So
Wow.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that not 6,000 people are not only considering part-time work after graduation. So just make sure for the purposes of this, I understand you guys, when you're looking for a campus job, you're looking for part-time, right? So oftentimes people will default to this. If you're using the tool to find an internship or a future career, check full-time off. Because that's going to base off of like you're working 40 hours a week. Even if it's a temporary internship or something like that, that's only 10 or 11 weeks. It's kind of a big deal. Then industry interests, we can mine that as well. We can get through all the different ones that you guys could pick on your side that we can add in here. Your job role interests. So again, another one where it allows us to get even more specialized.
So can I jump in for a second? Remember at the beginning when we were filling out that interests, the one that I said you create and then you save it? These are the categories that are in there. That's where it's going to pull them in.
You see some real interesting ones in here, like photogrammetrists. Photogrammetrists. I don't think I've ever heard of that in my life. Can't even say it. but
Somebody
you
said it once, so it went in.
Yeah. You can get really specialized in here. I would certainly, if you're involved in extracurricular organizations on campus, you should always be touting that, because that is a criteria that we look for in high performing students. Doesn't always necessarily have to be a leadership role, but we want to see, like, are you just burying your head in the book, or are you building soft skills and getting involved in other things off the side of your desk, that aren't just like intramural sports and stuff like that. Obviously, I did it while I was up there. We all like to do that stuff in school, and they're definitely good things to be doing, but you want to supplement it with like joining some societies. Like a couple of you guys are finance majors, you mentioned on here, like the Finance Society, Beta Alpha Psi, things like that you would want to have on here.
One more question. So you've got a 3.2 GPA in there. If a student does not have their GPA filled out in the profile, does that knock them out? Because it won't pull up any GPA.
I don't know, actually. I'm not really sure. Let's see what this does to the list here. We can take it out.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Yep. So it will filter them, and we've dropped to 3.0. So we shaved a couple tenths of a point out of there, because we're like, really, what is 2/10 of a point going to change in a person?
It's very true. Yeah.
So it allows a little bit more flexibility, but yeah, definitely put a GPA in there. It's a screening criteria for all of us. We have flexibility on it, but I would say, like, if you're at like a 2.5, I might not advertise that on there. I might just leave it blank, but yeah, it's definitely something worth putting on there. It's another opportunity for you guys to sell yourselves and like tout the fantastic things that you're doing in school. Don't be afraid to, or as I always like to say, don't sell yourself short in these. That's what this whole process is all about, is how can I get to know you without having to like get on the phone with you and have a 2-hour conversation about your entire life up to this point. Get a lot of the stuff up on here that gets us that point to like say, all right, I want to reach out to Alexa and talk to her about this role. She looks like a great fit for my job. I'm going to make that call right now. So having all the detail on there is going to help us manage through that. And more importantly, as we can all continue to grow and need to move really quick on stuff, these segments and campaigns are things that we're going to be heavily leveraging to bring the jobs to you guys, rather than you guys having to come to us to find them, to bring the events to you guys rather than us having to rely on you guys finding them, or have to partner with Kathy and hope that we can get it cascaded out to a bunch of people. We'll still do that, but we have this extra supplemental opportunity here. I'll show you guys what a campaign looks like. So I've done a whole bunch of these. They get all right traction. It's like sending a marketing email. You're going to get a lot of opens that don't follow through, so you can see the fall off when you go to the engagement side to it over here. But honestly, at the end of the day, when you're sending it to 1,000 people, I don't need 1,000 people to reply to it, right? But to give you an idea of what one of these looks like, this is what comes out to you guys. So you get this job opportunity. We can set it nice where it populates your name here, and then you get a whole quick rundown on the company, the job posting, and then you just click to apply. Brings you straight to our website.
And Mark, does that come to them from Handshake or from like your account?
Handshake.
So okay.
The construction of it happens. So the construction of who it's going to happens in here. And so let's say I'm good and I want to send one. I could create campaign. And you can see I could do any of these different things on here. So if we run an info session, I would do an event. If I want to share a job, I'm obviously going to share a job. And then it allows me to name it and go through all my different criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And you load the message in there. You load a follow-up message in there. Like here, I would click external system. And then that's how that brought me right to Workday when I clicked on that, because I have our job posting embedded in it. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're looking in two different places for applicants. And we have always said from a compliance perspective, if you're applying in Handshake, we need you to also apply in our application too. So to minimize duplicate efforts, we usually shut down posting in Handshake and put the links in there that are going to drive you right to our Workday email or our Workday job board.
Yep.
But you can kind of see, like, we can get mindful of, like, did I just message you 3 weeks ago about something? Do I not want to spam you? I can filter you out of this here. So it's important, I think, that you guys, if you're going to start really leveraging the tool to get in a good habit of checking the inbox in here. I don't know. I would assume that it's going to alert you in your personal email too, because I get emails from Handshake and my work email constantly. So it'll probably give you a heads up, but it'll probably minimize the message and force you to go to the application to see it and interact with it.
So just a thought here for the students, if you have your system shut down, where under your profile it says allow employer access or allow employers to reach out to you, if you have that turned off, you won't see these messages. So you want to make sure that in your profile that you've got that turned on, that, you know, employers can reach out to you, which means that, you know, Mark is sending you emails from Handshake, from a company that has a huge trust factor. But I'm also going to caution you that if you're getting emails from companies that you know nothing about, you know, don't go into it blindly. You know, reach out to one of us, do your research on the company, make sure that you're still paying attention to the emails that you get. But before we disconnect, I'll show you on my fake student where you could see those messages, because they might be sitting in there right now that you haven't seen yet. Oh, I didn't need to stop.
Oh,
Okay.
So those are good points, Kathy, definitely. You know, definitely leave that open for for any employer to contact you guys. I would wonder why students wouldn't have that in the first place, like why they would shut that down, because I think it auto defaults to allowing all employers to contact you. The thing is, you will get questionable messages on there because there are a lot of questionable employers out there. I mean, some of them might even show up at career fairs sometimes on campus, you know, and it's just not places that are wildly popular with college students. But the beautiful thing here is you've got all of those reviews on the company page that you can go back and look at. It's just like if you went on Glassdoor and somebody reached out to you and you're like, they said they're national and they got 0 reviews on here. That should raise a red flag in your mind to say, hold on a second, what's going on here? Or if there's a complete lack of information on Handshake and there's no person tied to the file, you know, it's very easy for you guys to be able to see those red flags before getting, you know, 2 hours into talking with someone and into a process with a company that you probably don't want to work for.
Yep, that's exactly right. And because this is a fake profile, mine is tied only so the messages come in through here. So, I mean, this is somebody from Urban Teachers who was going through profiles exactly the way Mark was just describing and sent this message to my fake student, right? So just go in when you've got time, just go in and pop up on your home page and look for your picture and then look for messages and see if you've got stuff in there, and then check your profile to make sure you're opening that up. All right, so Mark, you have been amazing. I just want to give the students like one more chance if they've got questions, because I know I promised you I would get you in and out by 4.
I got time if there's more questions. I got nothing after this, so you know, certainly happy to stick around for a little bit.
Do any students have questions, or like any even on our team? Because I know every time we do one of these programs, we all learn something new, and I learned new information today. Okay, so Alexa, is listing hobbies beneficial? Good question.
Yeah, hold on, let me go in the chat so I can see it.
Okay.
Yes and no. It's certainly not a thing that we're gonna filter on, but I think it's always good to give a little line of sight of what you're into. I've seen some wild stuff over the years. Lots of Dungeons and Dragons, lots of ukulele players. So sometimes it's a good conversation point. Or you never know. You might have a recruiter looking at your profile that's really into something that you're into, and it's going to create some opportunities to chat about something that's not just hammering you with questions. So don't think of it as like I got to load a ton of stuff on there. Put it on as the last possible thing on your resume, and don't dump a ton of them. Like put a couple. We all only realistically have a couple hobbies, so listing out 10 to 15 of them would be like, when are you getting your work done?
Yeah.
So Mark, this is Sue. So I just want to, and Alexa, that was a great question. So part of what we're doing over and over, and we have met with freshman students, right, in creating their resumes. So there's two pieces here, is that for us as career coaches, we oftentimes will tell students that it's totally appropriate to put an interest section on their resume, especially as freshmen, right? This is an area where hoping that they can develop and they perhaps might not have space moving forward. That being said, it's also interesting that you made the comment earlier that you haven't seen a resume in a very long time. So because they can go ahead and create their profile and indicate what their hobbies or interests are outside. So it's interesting. You know what? I don't know, Alexa, where you are in the career search, but perhaps as a freshman, and you might have heard one of us say, oh, most definitely. Go ahead and put your hobbies and your interests on your resume. So I do think it's always interesting, and this goes back to the point of really having to know your audience and where you're applying and perhaps what would be of interest to the recruiter for them to look at a profile. So good point of interest, not to say not 40,000 things on their profile about what their level of interest is, but most definitely it helps give the recruiter a little insight as to who you are and what things are of interest to you. So
believe me, I like the resume. I just don't know why I can't see it in Handshake. Otherwise I would be looking at them. But sometimes it's fun to fall into the situation where you just can't see it and you have to make decisions on something that you normally would have in hand that you now don't. Like we'll get it eventually, and I'm fine with that. Like sometimes you have to numbers, it's a numbers game almost in some cases with this stuff,
Sure.
Yeah, and Mark, I think because you're driving the students to your website, it's not showing you their resume because it's not linking it to the job.
Right.
So for the students that are on here and the students listening later, please make sure that you have a current resume in Handshake and make sure that it's all one that you've had, you have had it reviewed lately. So it's not one and done, right? So you want to keep updating that. Because there are some jobs that you cannot even see if you don't have a resume in Handshake. So some employers set it up, that the job is they're only going to look at students who have a completed profile with documents attached. So
in a selfish plug on that front that I've been seeing a little bit more recently, not from UConn students necessarily, but don't put the employer that you're applying to on like on your resume, because I can't tell you how many resumes I've got this year of people listing Travelers on there, who's a direct competitor of ours, that they're seeking an internship from there. And I'm flexible. I often give people benefit of doubt and know what you guys are doing and know what you're up against. I know it's volume, but like, just don't do that. Like, just make it general. That when you start personalizing stuff like crazy and getting all fancy like that, that's when mistakes happen. We know you're seeking an opportunity at the Hartford if you apply to it. We don't need to have like the duplicate comment of like, I'm looking for a job at your company that I just applied to. It's just funny to me that how that happens. And it's just one of those things that I always think about, like the simple solution is just don't list the employer that you're applying to on the resume, and you could put it up anywhere. Now you're good to go. So
Yeah.
just word of advice.
It's such good advice because I have seen, like, because you can upload like 7 resumes in Handshake. So
Mhm.
if you're one of those students that does personalize it, which we don't recommend either, you need to go in and you need to literally look at which document you are clicking on, because if you're doing it, at 2 a.m. when you're applying for jobs and you click apply, it's going to take the one that is considered your primary one, right? So
Yep.
if the last time you did it was the one for travelers, like Mark said, it's going to pull in the wrong one. So one clean resume is really all you need. Any other questions? Mark, this was amazing. I could, ask you questions for 12 hours, but I think the important thing is for the students is to recognize now there's 2 sides of Handshake that you want to be paying attention to, right? So the research that you can do for the company, that jobs that are there and applying for them, but also using that profile the way that Mark just described it. And then paying attention to those emails that you get, so if you get something from the Hartford that says, based on your profile, pay attention to it, but also read into it critically. Like when, Urban Teacher reaches out to me to see if I'd like to apply to their internship. I'm like, yeah, well, you're not reading that profile.
Sure. Let me get my
There's
time
nothing in
machine.
that profile.
And I would say add a picture too, Jenna. I know you had one on yours that I looked at. So, I think that goes a long way. It's just like when we get LinkedIn profiles that don't have a picture on it. It's 2021. Like we have camera in our hand right here. Just take a selfie and pop it up there as long as it's professional. It goes a long way, believe it or not. Something as simple as that for us creates a certain sense of comfort. I don't know why. I don't know how to describe it to you. It's just that feeling you get as a recruiter that people are completing the profile on all of these things. And it just changes. It's like if someone calls you and you have, wonder what this person looks like, like that kind of thought.
Yeah.
It takes all of that away. So.
Right. And you're right. It does make you feel more comfortable. I get a little wigged out when I do a search in LinkedIn and it pulls up all of that, just a little head bobble one. Like, is the person just starting out with their profile and haven't, completed it yet? But it's super simple to use the exact same photo for LinkedIn and Handshake and any of the other platforms that you're using.
Don't
We
use
used
me
to
as
do
an
them in our
example, though.
office.
My LinkedIn profile photo is like 7 years old and I don't have a beard in it. So don't use me as an example.
Well, it's just like us, like we tell students to do all this kind of stuff. And then I looked at my LinkedIn profile recently. I'm like, I haven't updated like my about me in about 8 years.
Yeah. Well, you guys always do headshots at career fairs, right? So like, or at least I've seen. So I think those are opportune moments to get that, get that photo done, pop it up on all your professional social media apps. I even see people put them on their resume. It's a very European thing to do. They also call them a curriculum vitae and not a resume. But I've seen people put them on resume. I've seen them all over the place. So it goes a long way because it's like when you try to match a face to a name, right? When you're having a conversation with someone you have never met them,
Right.
it accomplishes that just by putting your picture up. So.
Yep. All right. Anything else that anybody wants to share or ask?
I just wanted to say thank you. This was really helpful. So it was really good advice.
Sure. And feel free to reach out anytime. You guys got my email in the inbox. As an alumni, the least I can do is help out my fellow Huskies in a time of need. Whether that might be advice or job searching, anything related to jobs, that is. I'm still trying to find the winning lottery ticket out there. But yeah, feel free anytime if you guys want to bounce your profile off of me and say, here's changes. What do you think from your perspective? If there's questions about the Hartford, the insurance industry, by all means, lean on me, use me as a resource. I'm happy to give just simple advice or anything like that. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks, Mark. All right, we are gonna sign off. For everybody who is looking at the rest of the week, I'm gonna share my screen. Actually, don't sign off. 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen so you can see the next session that's coming up for tomorrow. Let's see. So let me see which screen I am sharing here. Am I sharing anything? I can't even tell where I am.
Yeah.
Lost myself. Okay. I completely lost the screen.
Because
can't
it's
even
because
find you
WebEx
guys.
and all these give you the option of sharing your screen or sharing the content. I always just default to share the screen, and then you just maximize whatever it is you want to share.
Oh my God. All
Well,
right.
I was just going to
Oh.
say, until Kathy finds it, but it looks like she's got it.
See
Yay.
you guys. All right. So here, this is what we've got coming up. So today was the foundational day. Tomorrow is next steps. So Tuesday is LinkedIn and beyond. How do I build the skills I need to gain experience, a global perspective, career development, and a global environment? And then at the end of the day, our 3 to 4 session is a student-to-student panel for the student associations on campus. So you'll get reminders of those ad infinitum. And Mark, thank you again and again and again for doing this.
Anytime. If you need any help in any of those other events, call me. Let me know.
All right. And to all the students that stay on with us all day long, you guys rock. Let us know how we can help.